Welcome back to the deep dive. It is really good to have you here. We're doing something a little different today, a bit of a special edition.
Mm-hmm.
We're broadcasting this specifically for listeners tuning in through the Funeral Channel network.
It is a specific audience and honestly a perfect context for what we are covering today. I mean, it's the perfect fit.
It really is, because usually when we're in this space, talking about funeral planning, the focus is very ceremonial, it's emotional.
Right. It's the eulogy, the flowers.
Exactly. You're thinking about the music, the flower arrangements, the obituary. You are in that immediate heavy bubble of saying goodbye.
Which is, the most visible part
Yeah.
of death. It's the public's face of it, really.
But while all of that is happening, and I mean literally while the family is sitting in the arrangement conference, picking out an urn or choosing a casket, there is this other machine that starts running in the background.
Oh, yeah.
It's quiet, it's invisible to most people at the funeral, but it is relentless. I'm talking about the administrative side of death. The money, the assets, the house, the debts.
And that machine doesn't care about grief.
No.
It cares about one thing.
Authority.
Authority. Who is in charge?
That is the word of the day. Authority. We are doing a deep dive into the hidden script that runs parallel to the funeral. Who is actually in charge? And I don't mean who's planning the service.
No, not at all.
I mean, who holds the keys to the bank account? Who has the legal right to sign a check? Who gets to decide what happens to the house?
It's the bridge between grief and governance.
Oh,
And if you don't know who's driving the bus tends to crash.
Or at least get stuck in a lot of very expensive traffic. Now, I read through the stack of articles, legal essays, and guides on family trust you brought in, and the first thing that hit me was the vocabulary problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think 90% of the population has one word for the person in charge after someone dies. Right, executor. I'm the executor. It's in every movie. It's the pop culture default. But looking at these sources, if you walk into a bank or a title company today and say, I'm the executor, you might not get the reaction you expect.
You might get a blank stare, or worse, a comeback in 6 months. And this is the core tension we need to unravel right at the top.
Okay.
The difference between an executor and a trustee isn't just semantics. It's the difference between asking for permission and having power.
Okay, let's drill into that, because I will admit before reading this, I thought they were basically synonyms.
And most people do. There's no shame in that. So let's start with the executor. An executor is a role that only exists in one place.
A will.
In a will. That's it. And a will is fundamentally a letter to a judge. That's what people don't realize. When you write a will, you aren't actually moving your money. You are writing a set of instructions for a probate court.
So wait, when you die, the person you named as executor has zero authority.
Zero. None. Not a shred. Not until a judge looks at the will, validates it, and issues a court order.
So there's a gap.
A massive gap. It's called probate. And depending on where you live, that gap can be months, sometimes a year or more.
Wow.
So imagine you are at the funeral home. You need to pay for the service. You say, I'm the executor. The bank says, great, show me the letters testamentary from the court. You say, I don't have them yet. The funeral's on Tuesday. The bank says, sorry, account frozen.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It is the standard operating procedure for a will-based plan. It's not the exception. It's the rule.
Okay, so now compare that to the trustee.
The trustee. This is the protagonist of our story today.
Hero, maybe.
Well, we'll see about that. The protagonist, at least. A trustee is responsible for a trust, specifically, a revocable living trust, which is what most families use to avoid that probate nightmare.
Right.
The trustee's authority doesn't come from a judge. It comes from the contract itself, the trust document.
So it's private law versus public law.
That's a great way to put it. A trust is a private contract. The moment the creator of the trust dies, the contract says, okay, person A is gone, person B is now in charge. Boom.
Just like that.
Instantly. No judge, no waiting period, no court fees.
So if I'm the trustee, I can walk into that same bank.
You walk in with a trust document and a death certificate. You don't ask the bank for permission. You show them you're the owner now. You can write the check for the funeral. You can pay the mortgage so the house doesn't go into foreclosure while the family is grieving.
That distinction, authority by permission versus authority by contract, that's huge.
It changes the entire landscape of the post-death experience.
Yeah.
It really does. And that is why we are focusing on the trustee today. Because in modern estate planning, especially for families with a house and some savings, the trustee is the one holding the real power.
But power's tricky, right? As we go through this outline, we're going to see that this automatic authority creates its own set of problems.
Mm.
We're going to talk about how these people get picked, what happens if they mess up, and the absolute chaos of sibling dynamics.
The fairness trap.
I really want to get to the fairness trap, but let's start at the beginning. Section 1. The source of power. Who decides who gets this job?
The grantor. You'll see this term a lot in the notes. Grantor, settler, trustor, it's all the same person. The person who made the money, the person who set up the trust.
So mom or dad?
Usually mom or dad, yeah. They are the ones writing the script.
And they are the sole playwrights.
They are the sole playwrights. And this is crucial to understand. The decision of who runs the trust is locked in when the documents are signed. Often years, maybe decades, before the death occurs.
I feel like there's a misconception here. I've heard friends talk about, we need to get together after the funeral and decide who's going to handle dad's estate.
Yeah, that meeting is about 10 years too late. Unless the grantor left the trust completely empty, which, defeats the purpose. The family doesn't get a vote.
Yes.
The grantor decided.
And usually the grantor is their own trustee while they're alive, right?
Exactly, because it's a living trust. They don't lose control of their money just because they signed the paper.
They're still the pilot.
They're still the pilot. But the trust document has a list of successor trustees. This is the depth chart. The co-pilots waiting in the wings. And the grantor had a whole menu of options when they made that list.
Oh, let's look at that menu. Because the source material breaks this down into categories, and I think this is where the psychology of the parents really comes out.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It's a Rorschach test for the family. The most common choice, obviously, is a spouse. If dad dies, mom takes over. Simple. That's standard.
But the second choice, when both parents are gone, that's where it gets interesting.
That's where the drama starts.
The adult child.
The adult child. And now, how do you pick? I mean, do you pick the oldest? Do you pick the one who lives closest? Do you pick the one who needs the money the most?
Or, and this seems radical, the one who is actually good with money.
Ideally, yes. The sources emphasize that this should be a decision based on competence, financial literacy, emotional stability, organization, but so often it's based on not hurting feelings.
We will get to that disaster later. But there are other options on the menu. You could pick a friend.
You can. A trusted relative, an uncle, a close family friend. The advantage there is they might be a bit more objective than a sibling. They're not wrapped up in the same childhood drama.
But the downside is?
It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
You are asking a friend to take on a massive, unpaid, part-time job that comes with huge legal liability.
That's a big ask.
It's a friendship ender, potentially.
And then there's the professional option. The nuclear option, you call it.
The corporate trustee. A bank, a trust company, or a private licensed fiduciary.
I feel like people resist this one. It feels cold. I don't want a bank raising my kids, is the line you always hear.
Right, but the bank isn't raising the kids. The bank is managing the checkbook. But yes, there is a resistance to the fees and the impersonal nature of it.
But sometimes,
as we will discuss, sometimes cold and impersonal is exactly what you need to prevent a civil war.
So the grantor makes their choice. They sign the paper. It's done. Years go by. Fast forward to the funeral context. The grantor has died. We are now in Section 2, the critical transition.
The baton pass.
You mentioned earlier, this is immediate, but walk me through the mechanics. I am the successor trustee. Dad passed away last night. What do I actually do? Do I just start grabbing checkbooks?
Please don't. That's how you get sued. Immediate authority still requires administrative steps. The first thing you need is proof.
Okay.
You cannot act as trustee without the death certificate.
Which, ironically, you get from the funeral director.
Correct. This is where the funeral channel context loops right back in.
Yeah.
The funeral director is often the gatekeeper of the document that unlocks the entire estate.
So I get those death certificates. What next?
Then you have to formally accept the office.
You have to accept it. You can't be drafted.
You cannot be drafted. Being a trustee is a liability. It's a huge responsibility. You're responsible for tax returns, for accounting, for investments. You can be sued by the beneficiaries if you mess up.
So the law says you have to opt in.
You have to affirmatively say, in writing, yes, I will do this.
What if I don't want to? What if Dad named me, but I'm busy, or I just don't want the headache?
You resign. You formally decline the appointment. And then the trust looks at the list and goes to the next name. Next person up.
Okay, so assuming I take the job, I have the death certificate, I sign the acceptance, then what?
Then you notify the beneficiaries. This is a legal requirement in almost every state. You have to send a letter, usually within 60 days, saying, "Hi, I am the trustee. The trust is now irrevocable."
Meaning it can't be changed.
Correct. It's locked in stone. The letter says, Here is a copy of the terms. If you have a problem with this, speak now or forever hold your peace. It essentially starts the statute of limitations for anyone to challenge the trust.
That seems like a tense letter to write.
It can be, but notice what we haven't done yet.
We haven't gone to court.
We haven't asked a judge for anything. We are operating completely privately.
Now, the sources mention a scenario that I hadn't thought about. The midstream death.
This is chaotic, and it happens. Imagine the successor trustee, let's say it's your brother, has been managing the trust for 6 months. He's in the middle of selling Dad's house, the contract is on the table, and then, tragic heart attack, your brother dies.
Oh my gosh. Does the whole thing reset? Do we have to start over?
No. And this is the beauty of the trust structure. If it was probate and the executor died, everything stops. Dead stop. You have to go back to court, get a new executor appointed, get new letters. It could take months.
But with a trust.
The next successor on the list just steps up.
In the house sale, does the new person have to renegotiate the house sale?
No. The trust is the seller, not the specific human being. The human is just the agent. So if the agent changes, the contract is still valid. The new trustee reviews the paperwork, ensures everything is correct, and closes the deal.
Continuity is preserved.
That's the key word. The trust provides continuity.
But there is a nightmare scenario lurking here. What if the list runs out?
The empty bench.
Yeah. Dad named Mom. Mom died. Dad named me. I died. There is no one else listed.
This happens more often than you'd think. People write trusts and then forget about them for 30 years. All the people they named have passed away or moved on.
So what happens? Does the trust just dissolve?
No, the trust does not dissolve, but you lose all the benefits of the trust.
You end up in court.
You end up in court. The beneficiaries have to petition a judge to appoint a trustee. Now you are paying lawyers, you are paying court fees, and you are airing your family's dirty laundry in public record just to get someone appointed to write a check.
Which is exactly what the grantor paid thousands of dollars to avoid in the first place.
Precisely. This is why thoughtful drafting is the refrain of every estate lawyer. Don't just name one person, name 3. And include a mechanism for the beneficiaries to appoint a professional if the list runs out so they don't have to go to a judge.
That's good advice. Okay, let's shift gears to something that the sources say is actually messier than death. Incapacity.
The gray area.
Death is binary. You are or you aren't. We have a certificate. But incapacity, that feels subjective.
It is incredibly fraught. We are talking about dementia, Alzheimer's, strokes, or even temporary situations like a coma from an accident. The problem is the person who is incapacitated often doesn't think they're incapacitated.
Right. If Mom starts sending money to Nigerian princes, she thinks she's helping a friend. The kids think she's losing her mind.
And if the trust doesn't have a clear mechanism for this, you have a war. The kids try to take the checkbook, Mom calls the police claiming theft. It gets ugly fast.
So how does a trust handle this better than just arguing?
Modern trusts have incapacity provisions. They define the rules of the game in advance while everyone is still sane. Usually it's not just when the kids think Mom is crazy. It requires objective proof.
Like a doctor's note.
Often 2 doctors. The 2 physicians certificate rule is very common. The trust says, I am the trustee until 2 licensed physicians certify in writing that I am no longer capable of managing my financial affairs.
That protects the parent, right? It stops the kids from staging a coup just because they disagree with Mom's spending habits.
Exactly. It's a high objective bar. But once that bar is met, the transfer of power is just like death. The successor steps in, the parent is removed from control for their own protection.
Can they come back? What if it was a temporary thing, like a bad reaction to medication?
A good trust allows for that. It's a toggle switch, not a cliff. If the doctors recertify that capacity is returned, the original trustee can resume control.
That's a huge relief.
But imagine if you didn't have this. Your only option would be to sue your own parent in court for conservatorship or guardianship.
Oh, wow.
You'd have to stand in front of a judge and testify that your mother is incompetent. You'd have to bring in doctors to testify against her.
That is emotional wreckage that you can't undo.
It destroys families. The trust allows this to happen privately, with dignity, based on medical opinion rather than a courtroom battle.
Okay, speaking of destroying families, let's get to the main event. Section 4, sibling dynamics.
Oh.
The outline calls this the fairness trap.
This is where the math of estate planning crashes into the emotions of childhood.
I think we have this ingrained idea that fairness means equality. If there are 3 kids, the money gets split 33, 33, 33. That makes sense.
That does make sense for the money.
But parents try to apply that same math to authority.
And that is the fatal error. They confuse beneficiary with trustee. Being a beneficiary is a right, you get the money. Being a trustee is a job, you manage the money. Those are two totally different skill sets.
But try telling that to the oldest son who just got passed over for his younger sister.
The entitlement myth. We see it constantly. I'm the oldest, I should be in charge. Or, I'm the son, I should be in charge.
Right.
Legally, that means nothing. The grantor can pick a random stranger off the street if they want.
So let's play out a scenario. The one versus the many. The grantor picks the responsible daughter to be the trustee. The other 2 siblings are just beneficiaries.
This creates an immediate power imbalance. Suddenly, the sister isn't just a sister. She's the gatekeeper. She's the boss.
And she has to follow the rules. This is important.
This is where fiduciary duty stops being a vocabulary word and starts being a weapon. Fiduciary duty means the trustee cannot act in their own self-interest. They must act impartially and follow the document to the letter.
So imagine the brother wants an advance on his inheritance to buy a car.
And the trust document doesn't allow for early distributions.
So the sister says no.
She has to say no. Legally, she has no choice. But the brother doesn't hear the trustee is following Article 4, Section B. He hears, my sister thinks she's better than me and won't give me my money.
Old childhood dynamics flare up. You were always the bossy one.
Exactly. You always got what you wanted.
Mm.
And the trustee is legally handcuffed. If she gives in and writes the check to keep the peace,
She can be sued.
she can be sued by the other beneficiaries later for mismanaging the funds. She is walking a tightrope between legal liability and family harmony, and it's an impossible position.
So to avoid that, parents do the other thing. They name everyone.
The co-trustee solution. I love all my kids equally, so they will all be co-trustees.
Why is this bad? It sounds democratic. It sounds fair.
It is a logistical nightmare. Imagine you need to sell the parents' house. You need 3 signatures on the listing agreement, 3 signatures on the offer, 3 signatures at the closing table.
And if they live in different states?
FedEx becomes your best friend and your worst enemy. But the real problem isn't the logistics, it's disagreement. What if one sibling thinks the house is worth $500,000 and refuses to sell for $450,000, but the other 2 want to sell?
That trust requires unanimous consent.
Then nothing happens. It's gridlock. The house sits, property taxes pile up, the roof starts leaking, the asset rots because the committee can't decide.
I can picture this vividly. The Smith family cabin. Brother wants to keep it for a weekend. Sister wants to sell it because she needs cash. Third sibling wants to rent it out on Airbnb.
And they are all co-trustees. Who wins?
Without a tiebreaker, no one.
No one. They end up in court asking a judge to break the deadlock in something called a partition action, which forces the sale of the cabin, usually at a loss, and the lawyers take a third of the money.
All because mom and dad wanted to be fair.
If you are going to name co-trustees, you need a tie-breaking mechanism. Majority rules. Or Jane has the final say on real estate, Bob has the final say on investments. You need to legislate the conflict before it happens.
Here is a question I know listeners are screaming at the radios right now.
Yeah.
Can we fire the trustee?
Ah, yes. The coup.
If my brother is the trustee and he is just being a jerk, he's slow, he's rude, he won't answer my calls, can we vote him out?
Generally, no.
Really?
It is not a democracy. You cannot vote someone off the island just because you don't like them or their management style.
Yeah, that seems harsh.
It goes back to the grantor's intent. The grantor picked him. The court assumes the grantor knew he was a jerk and picked him anyway, maybe for good reason. To remove a trustee, you need cause.
What counts as cause? Not just being a jerk.
Not just being a jerk.
Error.
Theft, fraud,
Yeah.
gross negligence, commingling funds like putting trust money into his personal checking account, reckless investing, a serious, documented breach of that fiduciary duty.
So being annoying is not a cause.
Being annoying, being slow, not being nice to me at Thanksgiving, none of that is cause. And courts are very hesitant to intervene in family squabbles. They don't want to be the referee.
So what happens if you try and fail?
Oh, this is the kicker. If you petition the court to remove him and you lose, the trust, your inheritance, often pays his legal fees to defend himself.
Wow. So you could sue to get him out, lose, and then pay for his lawyer out of your own future money.
That is the risk. It's a very high-stakes game.
One more specific sibling fear, the in-law invasion. If my brother is trustee and he dies, does his wife take over? Does my sister-in-law suddenly control my inheritance?
This is a huge fear, a very common one. But the answer is almost always no.
Okay.
Trusteeship is not an asset. It's a job. You can't leave the job of trustee to your wife in your will. It doesn't work that way.
So it goes back to the original document.
Correct. If brother dies, we look at mom and dad's trust again to see who is next on the list. It skips the spouse.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, mom and dad named the daughter-in-law as the next successor. But it's not automatic. It's not a hereditary right.
That's a relief. Okay, so we've painted a picture of potential chaos. Sibling fights, paralyzed committees, awkward Thanksgiving dinners. Is there a way to opt out of the drama? Section 5 says yes. The professional alternative.
This is the nuclear option for peace. You hire a pro.
A bank, a trust company.
A bank trust department, a trust company, or a private professional fiduciary. Yes.
But they charge fees. That's the big objection. Why pay a bank 1% or 1.5% a year when my son can do it for free?
Because your son might destroy the family doing it for free. You have to weigh the cost of the fee against the cost of the relationship.
What do you mean by that?
A professional trustee is neutral. That is their superpower. They don't have a dog in the fight. They don't care about your history. They don't care who got the bigger bedroom growing up. If the trust says sell the house, they sell the house. They don't get emotional about the wallpaper.
They are the bad guys, so you don't have to be.
Exactly. Let's go back to that advance. The beneficiaries want an advance. If the brother trustee says no, it's personal. If the bank trustee says no, it's policy. The beneficiaries can hate the bank, but they can still love each other.
That is a fascinating way to look at it. You are outsourcing the conflict.
You are. Plus, they have the expertise. They aren't going to accidentally forget to file the tax return. They aren't going to screw up the accounting. For blended families, second marriages, stepkids, I almost always recommend a professional. The dynamics there are just too explosive for a family member to manage.
Let's touch quickly on the no trust scenario again, just a contrast. If you don't have a trust, you have a will. You mentioned probate is public. How public?
Google public. I mean, if you go through probate, your will is filed with the county clerk. Anyone can go down there or look online in many places and see exactly who you are, who your heirs are, and what you owned.
So my nosy neighbor can see that I got $100,000.
Yes. And not just your neighbor. Marketing companies scour those lists. Oh, Jane Doe just inherited a house. Let's send her flyers for real estate agents and contractors, predatory lenders. It's all out there.
That feels like a violation of privacy during a really vulnerable time.
It is. Trusts are private. No one knows what's in them except the people involved. That privacy alone is worth the price of admission for many, many people.
We are coming into the home stretch, and I want to bring this back to the funeral channel listener. Section 6, the emotional and practical intersection.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
We've talked law, but we need to talk burden.
Serving as a trustee is not just paperwork. It's an emotional weight.
It absolutely is. You are stepping into the shoes of the person who died. You are quite literally wrapping up a life. You are going through their pockets. You are cleaning out their closets.
And you are doing this while you are grieving.
That's the kicker. The trustee is often the person who loved the deceased the most. The responsible child, the surviving spouse. So they are trying to read legal contracts through tears. They are trying to make rational financial decisions while they are in a fog of grief.
And the timeline is unrelenting.
It is. The funeral happens fast, in a week or two. But the estate administration, that can take a year, 18 months, sometimes longer. It's a marathon that starts with a sprint right when you're at your most exhausted.
The sources mentioned a connection here that I thought was really practical. The link between the funeral program and the estate plan.
Yes, this is a small detail that causes big problems. Organizations like the funeral program site talk about this. The obituary and the funeral program are historical documents. They list survivors.
Right, survived by his loving wife and 3 children.
But what if the estate plan tells a different story? What if the loving wife is actually separated and disinherited in the trust? What if one of the children has been cut out?
Oh, wow. So you have a funeral program that says one thing and a trust that says another.
And that creates confusion. It creates gossip. It can even create legal problems down the road. Why is Uncle Bob listed as a survivor if he's not allowed at the house to pick up his things?
So the advice is alignment.
Clarity. The person planning the funeral needs to talk to the trustee, who is actually in charge, who is actually family in the eyes of the law. It sounds cold, but getting those details right prevents that awkward whispering at the wake.
It goes back to that theme of authority. If the authority is clear, the ceremony can just be a ceremony.
Exactly. If everyone knows Sarah's the trustee, she has the ball, then everyone else can just mourn. If it's ambiguous, if everyone thinks they might be in charge, this funeral becomes a lobbying event.
Hey, did Dad mention the watch to you?
I'm going to go over to the house after the service and just grab the tools.
Yeah.
That's what happens when there's a power vacuum. A strong, clearly identified trustee fills that vacuum so the family can focus on healing.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered the mechanics, the family drama, the options. What are the big takeaways for our listener who might be staring at a pile of documents right now?
Takeaway 1. The document is king. It doesn't matter what Dad promised you at a BBQ in 1998. It matters what the trust says. Read it. Read it again.
Takeaway 2.
Being a trustee is a fiduciary job. It is not a badge of honor. It is not a prize. It is the burden of service. If you are appointed, take it seriously. Keep records. Be transparent. Treat the money like its radioactive handle with extreme care.
And for the person making the plan, the grantor.
Don't use your estate plan to try to fix your family. If your kids fight, making them co-trustees won't make them get along. It will just give them a new battlefield. Be realistic about who they are.
That brings us to our final thought. We talk a lot on this network about the good death.
Usually that means peaceful, pain-free, surrounded by love.
But I think today adds a new layer to that. A good death involves leaving a clean mess.
That's a great way to put it. We leave a mess no matter what. We leave stuff. We leave emotions. But you can leave a tidy mess, or you can leave a disaster zone.
The paperwork, the clarity, the difficult decisions made in advance, those are acts of love.
They are. They are the final gift you give your family. I loved you enough to not make you fight over this.
So here's the question for you listening right now. Maybe you are driving home from a funeral. Maybe you are just thinking about your own plans. If your family had to open your estate plan today, would they find a roadmap to peace? Or would they find a recipe for a civil war?
It's a question worth answering.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive for the Funeral Channel Network. Check your documents, have the hard conversations.
And take care of each other.
We'll see you next time.